Okay. Good evening, everybody. This is Ruth Mayne, Corporate Director with APL. APL Nation is in the house tonight for a very, very special call. You know that we have these every second Monday of the month where we have just a beautiful, beautiful woman that I call friend come on and talk to us about our products and what our products can do, the science behind them. And she always is dropping really good tidbits for us to not only learn from, but that we can then pass on to the people that are asking us about our products. Mary Esther Gilbert has over 40, probably 45 years now in the holistic health environment. She's been a teacher, a coach, a mentor. She has several degrees, and including a nutritional physiologist. She has worked with professionals and non-professionals alike. She has helped me immensely, especially not only just me, but my daughters as well in the teachings. You're going to learn all about that tonight, and she is going to share some really special things. So before we get started, I just want her to come up and say hi, and then we are just going to dive in. So this call is being recorded. If you have a pen and paper, though, I would jot down some things that are important to you as you hear them. Even if you can't write fast enough, you can go back to the recording. But this way you can ask questions at the end. I assure you, we don't have a long list of questions tonight, but they're very in-depth questions. And the topic tonight, just so you know, is methylation. And some people know about methylation and some people don't. But it's extremely important individually, as you're going to learn, on what our bodies are capable of methylating and being able to use. So Mary Esther, please come up and just say hi and introduce yourself any way that you want to, and let's get started.
Thank you so much, Ruth. It's such a pleasure to be here with you and with all of you. I just want to say that we're in for quite a ride tonight. The methylation process is so in-depth. I have never really done too much research on methylation, so I took this opportunity to learn a lot more about it and want to share all of it with you. We're going to take a snapshot because, as you know, the human body is so infinitely complex, and the methylation process is extremely complex, but I narrowed it down. But we want to make it fun tonight anyhow. It's going to be a little bit technical, but I like to stop along the way and reiterate, things. So we should be able to fit it all in the 60 minutes that we have.
And if we can't, you guys are going to have resources that you can follow up with. So let's just dive right in, because I tell you, I learn something new every time I get on a call with Mary Esther. So I want to start out, Mary Esther, first of all, by thanking you again for being here and addressing us all and letting us glean just a portion of your wisdom. The first question I have is, can you explain to everybody on this call and the people that will be listening to this call, what is methylation in our bodies and why is it so important?
Okay, before I show the PDF document, I just want to say what methylation, basically, it's one of the biological processes in our bodies having to do with the DNA and how it can change our expressions of how our DNA works without mixing up our basic genetic code. So we need the essential amino acid methionine. So methionine is not something that the body can make. So we need to take it in through the diet, through the animal-derived proteins. So like the many other essential amino acids, the methionine molecule is the fundamental key to the methylation process. And I'm going to show you a lot of pictures and diagrams, and so you'll be able to get a visual of what I'm talking about here. Let me go ahead and share the document right now before I go on. Let's see here. Everyone should be able to see that.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so again, it's a really crucial element in the control of the precise expression of our genes that operate the entire body. So it's kind of a sub classification of epigenetics. So Epigenetics is just a mechanism that's essential for normal cell development and stem cell differentiation. We all produce the stem cells, and they differentiate themselves in order to address our needs in the body. So no matter what kind of cells the body needs, they all start out as stem cells. So epigenetics is very important for normal cell development and the stem cell development as well. So without the proper epigenetics and the methylation, we start to age rapidly, and a lot of different disease conditions are associated with DNA methylation gone wrong, including the formation of cancers. And as usual, as you know, I'll completely back everything I say tonight with extensive scientific research, and I always list them, as you know already. So let's go ahead and redefine epigenetics. So this is really important to understand. So somatically heritable states of gene expression, in other words, in the body, a change to a person's DNA that occurs after conception due to changes in this chromatin structure. So the chromatin here is the little X, chromosome, right? And so we can just break it down. As you can see, it's a lot more detailed than it appears in this picture on the left. And as you continue breaking down and unraveling the genetic information, you can begin to see a lot less detail. But as you can see here, it's actually only one of these strands that's being unraveled like this. So when you take a small portion of this section here, then you go into the chromatin fibers, and this is the actual structure of this genetic code, this chromosome. And if you unravel this, then eventually you can see the DNA molecule, which is the double helix. Okay, so this is full of those double helixes. All right, so now you get a picture of what the methylation process is going to affect. So there's so much research on epigenetics, and methylation it was just completely overwhelming, but it was really fun doing a deep dive on this, Ruth. I'm glad you brought this up. So just to read what I've got here, research reveals the mechanisms that contribute to degenerative health conditions like cancer, inflammation, obesity, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes mellitus, cardiovascular diseases, neurodegenerative diseases, and immune diseases. And then the list goes on and on. Anything that where things can go wrong because of the genetic code that gets disrupted, then we're going to go into the disease process. So we want to nourish ourselves, like I always say, and make sure that this does not go wrong. So now if we induce the epigenetic changes, that can be incorporated or inherited during cell division, becoming a permanent composition of the phenotype, which is the observable characteristics of an individual resulting from the interaction of its genotype, the complete set of DNA that we just looked at with the environment. So we interact with the environment, we perceive the environment, and it affects our methylation process on the DNA. So I'll show you more and more pictures as we go on so it can become more and more clear. Trying to introduce something so vastly complex was quite a fun challenge. Alrighty, so again, epigenetics is very important in the nutritional field, since nutrients and other bioactive nutrient factors, and this applies to us with the BRN, the phytochemicals and all those plant cell organelle components that are in the drops, that are able to modify the epigenetic actions like altering the gene expressions. So the gene expressions are nothing more than the sequence and the order of our basic fundamental codons, which are the building blocks of the DNA. And I'll explain that further as we go. But we need folate, which is a B vitamin, vitamin B12, methionine, the essential amino acid, and choline, the precursor for all of our nerve system communications, pulses, and betaine, which is part of a molecule that's very important for digestion. And that all has a direct essential effect on DNA and histone methylation. Now, the histones are these little round discs that I showed you earlier. And these are the structures that make up this X chromosome. Okay, so let's keep going here. I hope I haven't lost anybody yet. but it gets better. It gets more clear as we go on. Is everybody okay? Are you okay, Ruth?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
This, I don't know
awesome.
about you, but
Thumbs up.
this excites me when you get into it.
Me too. It was so much fun. Okay, so all those nutrients are necessary for the methylation process to be successful. Keep that in mind. So these bioactive food components, and notice I say bioactive. If you cook a food to death, it's not going to be bioactive. There's going to be some residual nutrients that your body can use, but nothing like something that's bioactive, like the raw enzyme active foods and the viable components in our drops. Okay, so they have the enzymes that are involved in this epigenetic mechanism that alter the gene expressions and can affect the physiologic and pathological conditions in one's lifetime. Okay, so genistein and T catechins, these are phytonutrients that are in our drops. They can activate a certain enzyme, DNMT enzymes. There's several of them. So DNMT is DNA methyltransferases for short. So anything that ends in ASES is something you can recognize as an enzyme. Most enzymes end in ASES. So more phytonutrient compounds, resveratrol, butyrate, sulforaphane, diallyl sulfide inhibit the HDAC enzymes, which are histone deacetylases. Notice the aces. So all these enzymes are involved, while curcumin in our drops inhibits the HAT, which is the histone acetyl transferases that weaken or disrupt interactions between histones and DNA. So there's the body decides whether it needs to weaken an interaction or strengthen it. And it's always this play that's going on. In any biological or biochemical process, the body monitors and decides what to do, dial it up or dial it down. Now, if you're nutrient deficient, it's going to keep dialing it down and weaken the ability of the DNA to provide the instructions to run the body, okay? So DNMT actions affected by bioactive nutrient factors in foods can change the body's DNA methylation, which in turn affects gene expressions and therefore chromosomal integrity. So I kind of reiterated myself there. I always do that. I always say it and then I read it and it's the same thing. Anyhow, maybe that'll help memorize for everyone. So now in autoimmunity conditions like after age 50, you've got the human T lymphocyte immune cells, and they've been shown the DNA methylation and overexpression of genes is very important for these immune cells to recognize what to do. Then this results in the switching on of genes and aging cells or cell senescence. So senescence means the cell's getting old, right? Associated with cell degradation of the extracellular matrix outside of the cell and production of inflammatory proteins like cytokines that lead to tissue damage. So again, there's this monitoring system. Do you need a DNA methylation molecule attached to the DNA or not? You know, that's what the body has to decide all the time, but it needs the right nutrient factors. So the B vitamin folate, this is very essential. It's for the DNA methylation during early embryonic periods. Deficiency in early pregnancy is associated with the risk of neural tube defects. So this methylation process is extremely important for the development of the fetus. And so you want to make sure you provide your body with the diet with the right B complex vitamins, okay? Now, if there's a deficiency in choline, it's a biochemical that supports nerve, brain, and muscle movement. It's a precursor for the nerves transmissions. Could change DNA methylation during the embryonic period and alter fetal brain development. That is so, so important. So choline is present in the ginger root, the ginkgo leaf, and the Panax ginseng root in our BRN formulation. So you don't have to worry about where am I going to get my choline, you know, kind of thing. Actually, it's present in other foods. So the vitamin B12, cobalamin, now these vitamins are actually whole entire complexes. They're not a singular nutrient. Each B vitamin is a whole complex in itself. It's essential as a cofactor. Vitamins are coenzymes actually, and minerals are cofactors. So keep that in mind. So it's also essential though as a cofactor for the enzyme methionine synthase, another enzyme known to affect the genome DNA methylation. Okay, that's just another little tidbit that I picked up in these very intense peer-reviewed studies. So yeah, have fun with those if you want to explore that. Good luck with that. Okay. All righty. So now I want to show you some visuals. So here are various methyl groups where the amino acid methionine is attaching itself to different molecules, different enzymes. So it generates amino acids, enzymes, energy. All of this is affecting our genetic information. Now, as you can see here, if you can follow the arrows, it's easier to see. We've got the SAMe molecule. That's very important too for activating these enzymes to continue on to methylate or attach a methyl group of molecules to the DNA. And you'll see a picture of it and it'll all come even more clear for you. But as you can see, there's so many different pathways that the body takes and utilizes these enzymes in order to produce either energy in the adenosine triphosphate molecule, that unit of energy that makes us go. It's this, this energy molecule that we use for energy. And also here's the essential amino acids that's going through different processes using choline, betaine, the BHMT and the DMC. And it shows you just a schematic of what atoms are attached to these molecules. Some of them are double bonds, some of them are single bonds, some of them contain more than one atom, in the carbon hydrogen chains. But again, it's it's something that's quite a challenge to present here. So the tetrahydrofolate is just a variation of the B vitamin that you take in nutritionally. So it's forming a methyl group here. Okay, so again, there's all of these pathways that are going back and forth in the body in order to protect the DNA, but also respond to changes that are outside of us. And that's all called DNA methylation.
And methylation is kind of hard for people to understand if they don't have a science background. But guys, you'll be able to study this, and we're going to make it all a little bit clearer as we go through these questions. My next question, Mary, is can the APL accumulate SA technology in our lozenges help with methylation triggering in the body? And you might want to spend maybe 30 seconds or a minute on explaining triggering your genes to do something, turn them on or turn them off.
Okay, that's what I was attempting to do. Okay,
yeah,
but as we go on, though, I have more and more photos so that it will become more and more clear, because this one is quite an advanced kind of, view of what goes on with all of these different biochemical processes as we try to methylate, right? But
correct.
So, I mean, okay, so when the DNA methylation is present, it'll either repress or activate the gene expression or sequence of gene codes on the DNA, right? And the modification process in the control of genetic information, a type of epigenetics. Again, there's epigenetics, and then there's subclassifications that the DNA methylation process is a part of. So yeah, you want to make sure you keep that in mind. And I also wanted to explain a little bit about the SAMe, the S-adenosyl L-methionine molecule. So that's important, as you saw earlier, in the formation of these methyl groups in order to help the body create new neural pathways. Okay, so the I talk a little bit about how the SAMe can restore brain mitochondrial membrane fluidity. So we've got to make sure everything is fluid and flexible, able to receive information at the cell sites, and also the organelles inside the cell. They all have to continue to maintain a certain kind of flexibility in order to receive the information back and forth. So that's a little bit about that. I'm not going to. It's kind of redundant, though. Like I said, we can't make methionine. We have to get it from the animal-derived complete protein foods that contain all 8 essential amino acids in them. And then homocysteine, it's an amino acid broken down in the body by vitamins B12, B6, and folacin. So we need those B vitamins for so many things. So we need to break down, these proteins. And then adenosine is part of the energy production molecule. So it's a signaling molecule that's composed of the codon, or the the nucleic acids that are on the DNA, which is the ribose and the RNA, the adenine, all these different things are on the structure of the DNA. So if you don't know the difference between an RNA and a DNA, so the body is always switching things out and reading things and maintaining what should be a permanent structure. We don't want our genes to be altered. We don't want tumors to form or genetic defects that change the sequences of our genetic codes of information that make the body operate. So the only difference between the RNA and the DNA is the uracil molecule in the RNA. The body just switches it out when you're replicating your cells. It splits the DNA, copies each half, and then forms a new cell and puts it back together again into a new but replica of the mother cell. So just get to know, the cytosine, the guanine and the adenine and the thymine. So the thymine replaces the uracil in the DNA. So this is like genetic instructions, knowing that you've got to split the cell, copy it, and put it back together again. So that's what happens there. So, the methylation process is extremely important because it's going to attach itself to this DNA molecule. I'll show you the picture real quick. And here's just a diagram of the differences. Just one oxygen atom is the difference between the entire DNA molecule versus the RNA molecule. Okay, and here's another picture of the same thing of the RNA molecule, so you can study that. Okay, so I want to reiterate too here, Ruth, that abnormal DNA methylation pathways. So they can be hypo, like I said, or hyper. They can slow things down or speed things up. And they're the result of the improper gene expressions leading to all these different health disorders, right? But nutrition, I wanted to make sure you all saw this. Nutrition is one of the strongest modifiable factors directly affecting how DNA methylation work and all of its different pathways. So it actually alters the substances on which enzymes act. So everything is considered a substrate where enzyme action is happening. And the minerals, ions are important for this catalyst enzyme functions needed to correct any DNA methylation that it might have gone wrong or is heading toward, illness or disease. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to cover there. But the DNA methylation pathways are reversible because of the nutrient factors, and boy, could I ever tell you stories about health transformations because of the properly nourished cells in the body, no matter what was happening before. So now we've got the cytosine, which is one of the proteins that sit on the DNA molecule, right? You've got it up here, cytosine. That's very important too. We need to cover that. This is the one that transfers the epigenetic information through all these biochemical modifications. And so I'm leaving out so many biochemicals, but I picked out the most important ones so we can get an idea of what goes on at this vastly intricate thing that happens in the body. So I picked out this molecule. It happens to be very important, the pyrimidine nitrogen ring, just so you know, that's carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen molecules in different configurations. And then here's another visual of what happens, and how small it gets and where it goes. Okay, so this one I really wanted to show you before we go on to the next question. So here it is. Here's the DNA, right? We've got all the thymine, the adenine, and the cytosine, the guanine in the right genetic sequences. And here's the methyl groups. Here are the methyl groups, and this is what they're depicted as, right? This is what a methyl group looks like. You've got the CH3 molecule down here. Okay, so the methylation of the fifth position, again, they're being so technical. I'm trying to really give you a 40,000-foot view of what's going on. It has an important impact on the genome stability, gene expression, and development. So this position right here is the methylated cytosine, right on the DNA molecule. All righty. So, and there's the cytosine molecule itself sitting on the DNA. So when it's methylated, it's got this extra group that forms and attaches itself to it when the body knows it needs to do this biochemical process. Okay, so again, methionine requires the B complexes. And they're so critical for creating the SAMe molecule, and that's the key methyl donor for the methyl transferase enzymes and for the DNA methylation process. So I highlighted everything in bold so that you can just like pick it out of a crowd and realize the terms that the body's actually using, the nutrients that it's using to create this methylation process. Okay, so again, you don't want to be deficient in the precursors that we just talked about, all those nutrients. Okay, now just as an aside, there's a lot of research going on, including with MRI technology, and they're able to tell the different variations in brain structure and functions, and this is verified by what's on our genome, like the genetic traits, whether we are resistant to disease and other vulnerabilities. Okay, so all these peer-reviewed studies, they all showed associations between the DNA methylation process and human brain structure and function. So it's extremely important. We have the precursors for this process in the DNA drops, plus in a good diet, obviously. Okay, so one more picture here for everybody, and then I'm sorry, Ruth, I took longer than I thought, but I'm watching the clock.
It's okay.
Okay, so this is just in reiteration of the environmental factors that can affect the changes in how our DNA perceives our world, So you've got the synthetic toxins, you've got some good or bad supplements, a good or bad diet, exercise, if it's adequate and correctly done, and just lifestyle habits, smoking, drinking, or whatever else is in this category. But as you can see, it affects directly the structure of the chromatin molecule that contains all those DNA structures. And then we've got DNA and the histone modification, the modification to this structure here, chromatin remodeling. So we don't want chromatin remodeling unless it's a good thing, right? So then we've got all these epigenetic modifications, and they affect longevity, behavior, all kinds of things that are psychological, emotional, that kind of thing, and disease susceptibility. How good is your immune system? I mean, it just goes on and on, right? So here's a good scientific research study. I just borrowed their photograph, but they also describe this in more detail. So, all right, so getting more specific in nutrition, we have the omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids. Those are extremely important for our brain. The B vitamins, the polyphenols, those are extremely present in many plant foods, especially in our drops in the BRN. Fiber, of course, your body needs fiber. Caffeine, that's also, we have the green coffee bean, all the nutrient components and the DNA information from the green coffee bean, not the roasted coffee bean, but the green coffee bean, and it's organic. So we've got the best of the coffee bean, the caffeine that's in the BRN drops, micronutrients, all those phytonutrient compounds, supplementation. So, we've got all these wonderful nuts and oils and seeds and fruits and vegetables that we need in the diet as well. So they depicted a few of these items here, but they affect the epigenetic reprogramming, changes in our DNA methylation. Are there methyl groups attached to our DNA affecting our health, or are they causing the DNA to be diminished? Histone modifications, we want to make sure that those modifications are to our benefit. So that means improved neurotransmissions, communications between the brain and the nervous system and all the body, preventing nerve damage, preventing oxidative stress, which occurs during stress, nerve inflammation, it prevents that. Eubiosis, I forget what that means, I'll look it up. Neurotropic factors, anything having to do with the development and the maintenance of the nerves, stress response genes, in order for us to be able to properly respond to stress and not allow it to freak us out. We've got to maintain calm and be logical and make good decisions. So a well-nourished body is very important for doing that. Okay, and then if you've already looked at the other side, and this is where all the junk food is, or the imbalance of the omega-6s versus the omega-3s, a lot of nuts and seeds contain too many omega-6s, so make sure you research and know which of these oils are higher in the omega-3s. It's a much safer way to maintain the nervous system and the brain. processed foods, all this junk that just degrades us. And then, and as we talked about before, gut microbiota, immune system modulation, all of that. So if you have poor methylation, poor diet, all of that, then you're going to have all of these problems here. Ta-da, number 2, finally.
So I want you to be clear with everyone that although our lozenges, brain included, do not directly help with methylation, the ingredients such as the turmeric, the coffee bean, and others have a direct impact on the gene expression for methylation, correct?
Correct. And that's coming up in question number 3 and beyond. But we did the most time-consuming part of the call on question number
Yes.
1.
So let's move on.
Yeah, definitely. So you asked for number 2, that's our technology. We've got the spark, the negatively charged ions, we've got the active enzymes. All of those are needed to drive all of these processes in the body. So it's built into our drops. I don't know of any other formulation supplement in the world, and I've looked at a lot of them over the years, that is actually still acting like a living food, an enzyme active raw food. So we've got that action built into the drops and preserved there for us. Our bodies, accumulate or assimilate them, and they're already activating, all of these biological processes because of the negatively charged ions that are held in the drops. Okay, so those actions, they're of course going to affect the methylation process and every other biochemical processes that affect the body, including, what's happening in the brain cells.
Now, question 3. What ingredients in brain can help with methylation? And I think this is kind of where, we were funneling down into is, okay, now we have a background on what is methylation. And when you really start thinking about it, Mary Esther, methylation is so important and it's not talked about by anybody, and very few people know about it or understand it. And the more I have come to understand it, number one, the more excited I get because it makes perfect sense on why our bodies resist or act or don't act in certain situations with things that are going on with our bodies. And it was just like somebody hit me over the head with a hammer and said, pay attention, methylation is important. So talk about now the ingredients in brain specifically that can help our bodies triggering that methylation process.
Yes, and let's not forget that methylation is the key to helping us deal with our world, how we perceive our world. We can't be rigid in how our DNA instructions, make the body go. We have to perceive it, we have to react to it, and we have to handle things. So the methylation process is extremely important for allowing us to have that kind of versatility as human beings. That's the key to the right DNA methylation process. So we've got some pretty amazing, botanicals in this formulation. Green tea, it's got the epigallocatechin 3 gallate, EGCG, and the polyphenols. There's this huge classification of polyphenols, the catechins, the epicatechins, and the flavonoids. Our bodies convert to bioflavonoids, genistein, quercetin, fisetin, and myricetin. These are very, very powerful phytochemical compounds that have been known to drive that DNA process and make sure it's done right. The coffee bean, same thing. Caffeic acid, that's an anti-inflammatory polyphenol with all these free radical neutralizing properties, that reduce all this oxidative stress that happens. And if this happens over time and is chronic, then it's going to lead to nerve degeneration, which can lead to things like dementia, rapid aging, things like that. So caffeic acid in the coffee bean is one of the biochemicals that help with the methylation. Same thing with turmeric. This is one of the majorly studied, roots. That and ginger, they're in the same family, but turmeric here has been found to improve brain functioning. It helps it produce the brain-derived neurotropic factor, BDNF, And it's effective in delaying or even reversing a lot of the brain and age-related diseases like depression. And it prevents the shrinking of the brain's hippocampus, and that's the area of the brain that functions for learning and memory. So we have to preserve our dear hippocampus, gland in the brain. So the thing that's most important in the turmeric, in this case for the BRN formulation, is the curcumin that's in the turmeric. And that's been shown to cross that blood-brain barrier and improve the neurodegenerative processes of Alzheimer's disease. And it blocks this thing called B-amyloid, and that's a substance that causes plaques that narrow the circulatory passages or the blood vessels in the brain. So there's all this evidence, ongoing research going on that shows that DNA methylation, it plays a critical role in brain function, and producing new nerves, nerve cell formations, differentiation, maturation of the nerve cells, and the synapses, the jumps between the nerve cells, where you've got to have an electrical jump from one synapse to another in order to carry information throughout the body. If that falls down, if that is blocked somehow, you're going to have memory problems and all sorts of degenerative problems. So yeah, we've got to form new synaptic connections whenever we learn something new, have new experiences. This is something that the brain does to rewire itself if it needs to, or continue to form new pathways. So that's why these phytochemicals are so important for this.
Mary Esther, before you move on, can I ask a quick question? When we talk about turmeric and curcumin, which, there's been hundreds of thousands of studies on those and how they help with health, but everyone knows that doing like golden milk or just doing a turmeric paste or something is very hard for our bodies to absorb that. Can you just talk briefly about why brain is such a great lozenge for getting the turmeric and the curcumin into the cells and crossing that blood-brain barrier, because our bodies don't have to digest it and try to absorb it. It's already done for us, correct?
Absolutely. You answered your own question practically. But okay, if you were to take raw turmeric root and grate it onto something, don't cook. If you didn't cook it, you want to maintain the enzymes, the light energy frequencies of the live food, right? That would be one way to do it. Your stomach would digest it. And like you said, eventually it would get to the cells, right? Within a 24-hour period or more, and then do its thing. But we already have that. Like you said, it's as if it's been pre-digested. It's down to the level where we've got the enzymes, we've got the ionic chargers, the light energy frequencies already active in the BRN. And so the turmeric is already ready to go, ready to react in the cells. So once it hits that bloodstream and the DNA says, turmeric, phytonutrient compounds, brain function, zip, off it goes to the brain, right? Or if the body is okay in the brain, then it'll choose something else, anti-inflammatory. I mean, these plants are so amazing. I always just narrow them down very narrowly just to address what the specific formulations are made for, right? But in this case, we've already got everything we need to use it right now, rather than go through and, sometimes the roots, ginger root, turmeric root, all these roots are very strong tasting, right? And people tend to put them in tea. There goes the enzymes and the light energy frequencies of negatively charged ions in the live food. So they're destroying it, and they're getting very little value compared to if they were to take a big bite out of it, right? That would be a very spicy experience if you can handle that kind of thing. But why put yourself through that when we already have all of this information, the genetic codes of the plant that our DNA reads and says, oh yeah, I can use this, definitely, kind of thing. So yeah, that's the difference. I hope that answers your question. I'm pretty sure it did.
Oh, it does. And I think it makes it clear for everybody that, man, just pop a brain every day, every single day. All right, let's move on to the next question.
Yes.
Brain, we all know, is for cognitive thinking and many other issues, and it works very well. We all know that. We've all seen that. Can you please explain how it crosses the blood-brain barrier to work so efficiently?
This is so much fun. I love this. Okay, I hope you guys love it too. I don't know, maybe it's my enthusiasm is rubbing off on everybody, or maybe you already find it exciting. Okay, so we've got the BBB and the cells in the brain, the endothelial type of cells. And these yellow blocks here are representations of the endothelial cells. So now we've got to understand this is outside of the brain cell, right? It's already in the brain, it's in the circulatory system, and all these nutrients are arriving at the cell membrane sites. So we've got things that are water-soluble agents, and the phytonutrient compounds fall in this category. There's different things that arrive at these cell membrane sites. These protein lock and key puzzle-like receptor sites that are sitting there are looking for the right molecules to arrive. So these phytonutrients are already, processed all the way through and entering inside the other side of the cell, which is inside the cell of the brain down here. And we also have the fatty acids that we consume, the right types of fats, lipid soluble agents. Sometimes they're part soluble with water, part soluble with fat. So depends on the molecule that the body builds. And then we've got the carbohydrates that we take in. It just breaks them down to glucose, and the protein foods that we take in breaks them down to amino acids, nucleosides, even smaller. They arrive there at the cell membrane. They're allowed through, to go through. This is the blood-brain barrier right here. And we've got things like insulin, transfer, and all these other hormones that the body produces in order to communicate to the organs, And then we've got the other proteins, just other signaling proteins, things that kind of fill out, what the body needs to do, different types of fatty acids and just miscellaneous items, the brain needs. So the brain functions on glucose basically, but it also is composed of fats, the right types of fats. So that means cholesterol, and that means the omega-3s and some omega-6s and some of the omega-9s. So mostly we need omega-3s and animal-derived fats, okay? Our bodies will make cholesterol if we don't take it in. So please do not be afraid of cholesterol. It's the fried foods, the plasticized foods that cause all the heart disease problems, all right? And exercises, it's important for that. It's a whole nother biochemical process. Okay, but inside the brain, we've got, it has its own monitoring systems. Like here's a microglia, and that is patrolling to make sure that everything is firing, all the neurons are firing, all these communication pathways in the brain are proceeding correctly. And I'll show you a better picture of all these items below here. Right here, the microglia, I just pointed this out here. So the microglia, they call it the guardians of the brain. So anytime a cell is dying, then it'll consume it or disassemble it. Same thing with cellular debris, once it's dying and there's all these little components that the body doesn't need anymore, so it has to get rid of it. And clumps of misshapen proteins, all these, if you fry your foods or if you eat a genetically modified animal or, their feeds and whatnot. So these are misshapen proteins. And so the body has to be able to recognize them and get rid of them before they start causing, all kinds of distortions in the DNA molecule. Surveying for harmful substances. So the body says, this isn't mine. This is a pesticide. What's it doing here? Get rid of it, that kind of thing. So the body's always monitoring what's going on inside the brain and in other cells all over the body, actually. Okay, so all this research is going on, right? Especially what goes on in the brain and the DNA methylation that's going on in the brain. So it affects things like cognitive behavior, cognitive functions, behaviors, growth and development of a child, whether it's in the womb or outside, metabolic functions, all these different functions, inflammatory responses, disorders and diseases. And this is all happening in the epigenetic landscapes of the brain, which of course involves the DNA methylation. So the hippocampus is what controls memory. The prefrontal cortex of the brain is cognition, nucleus accumbens, addictive behavior. So there's different kinds of nerve cells that you might want to familiarize yourselves with. The neurons, there's different types of these neurons. We always have looked at the dendrites and the axon, and this is, the fatty acid coating that protects how the cell communicates. And so all these receptors and how they connect to each other and all this kind of thing. So these are the regular neurons, but we've got things called non-neurons, and they're also involved in all kinds of brain functions. We've got the glial cells, epididymal cells, epididymal cells, parasites, progenitor, astrocytes, oligodendrites, microglia, epithelial cells. So there's a lot going on, you know, in this area of the brain up here, down here, inside the brain cells. So we've got all these different components.
Mary Esther, before we move on, Linda McBee brought up a good question, and this has actually been asked of me before, and I've actually had a couple people say they cannot take our lozenges because a doctor told them they can't because they're on blood thinners. Can the turmeric or the curcumin or any other ingredients in our lozenges interfere with blood thinners, and should people be cautious about that when taking our lozenges?
Oh dear, you have opened up one Pandora's box.
I kind of
Okay,
knew that,
so
but I'm not the only
that
one wondering. And it's really sad when people are told by a medical doctor that they cannot take our lozenges because it'll interfere with blood thinner medications, and they don't understand our lozenges at all.
okay. Okay. Oh, okay. First of all, I have a problem with the term blood thinners. Okay. That would mean destroying red blood cells. We need our oxygenation. We need our nutrient delivery, right? We need oxygen-rich blood cells. So if someone is going to give you something that destroys and reduces the viscosity of the blood, then I've got a problem with that. I think it's a misnomer. I think it's a misconception that has been thrown out there. And I don't know, just I have a lot to say about that, but that's all I'm going to say about blood thinners, that term. Okay. And then you've got, you know, side effects and things like that. But all the years that I did research on the drug nutrient interactions, especially what they call blood thinners, I never found anything in the scientific literature in over 4 decades that said that that happens. Okay, it does not happen. So of all the drug nutrient interactions and all of the research that I used to do on this subject is kind of very misleading, because that's not what the body does. The body's not going to tone down its blood content or its blood volume in order to function better or to save, you know, the heart or whatever else is going on to prevent strokes or whatnot. Okay, so I have a real problem with that. I'm trying to stay, you know, to protect the company, to not mislead people into being too angry, you know, in that area. But I wouldn't say that anything in the drops is going to reduce your blood thickness, viscosity, volume. I need to leave it at that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I fully understand. We got you. We know where you're going with that. All right,
Okay.
let's move on. Which drop or drops would you recommend taking with BRN to help with methylation?
Okay, this was fun. I went through my entire book, and good thing I have the, you know, the manuscript. I can just do a control find on all these. But I realized that first I listed the polyphenols and the flavonoids and the curcumin. Okay, those are the 3 main things that help with methylation. So all of these botanicals in these drops contain, you know, polyphenols, wide ranges of polyphenols that do a lot of work in methylation. So when I listed everything, I saw, well, which products have the most botanicals that have polyphenols. So I came up with air, and here's the BRN, of course, and here's the MLS. So I would say air and MLS if you want to concentrate on the polyphenols. And then for the flavonoids, which we convert to bioflavonoids, and I listed just a few of them that are in the drops here. So the BTY and the HPY and the MLS contain the most botanicals that have the flavonoid compounds for helping with methylation. And then the curcuminoids, which includes the curcumin. Curcumin is one of the curcuminoids in turmeric. Basically, these formulations right here. So all of these formulations have the turmeric root in them.
That's a lot of drops that are helping a lot of us on a daily basis.
That's right. And we're just concentrating on the methylation here. So we're pretty much done, but I just wanted to let you know that there's so many wonderful things that these botanicals in the BRN and all the other drops do in the body. So I just I picked out anything having to do with the brain, and the phytochemical compounds in these different botanicals that you can go over so that you can understand that there's so much more going on with these botanicals than a small snippet, a small glimpse of our methylation process in the multiple trillions of processes the body does just to keep us alive, So anyhow, these are all of them here.
It's amazing.
That's pretty
and
much
guys,
it.
This will be available to everyone once we're off this call. But
right.
Before we wrap up, I want to talk about, so a lot of people now are thinking, oh my gosh, how do I know if my body is methylating things? How do I know what my body can methylate and can't methylate? There is a DNA test that you can go have done. I am not representing any company here. Go to anybody you want. I would just say choose carefully on what they do with your DNA. But the ones that the biggest one you want to have tested is your MTHFR. MTHFR. I'm not going to pronounce that because we all know what it sounds like. That is your biggest, the expression of the MTHFR is the biggest one, not only for methylation, but for inflammation as well. Along with that, you want to have tested, and you only have to do this one time in your life, folks, and you will know for the rest of your life what your body can methylate and what it can't. So then you can supplement for actually what your body needs instead of just supplementing to supplement. So MTHFR, MTRR, PEMT, and COMT. If you get a methylation test done, a DNA test for that, ask them to specifically do those. They run anywhere from $400 to $800, but you only have to do it one time in your whole life. And then you will know exactly what your body can do and cannot do. I've had a test like that run. You want me to say them again, Denise? MTHFR, MTRR, PEMT, and COMT. And you should also have your AC1 done. Your AC1 is important in that as well. And once you know that, guys, you know exactly what your body needs, what genes need to be expressed correctly and not correctly. This all started for me when I had a DNA test and my MTHFR came back as it does not switch on and off all the time. And that causes chronic inflammation in my body. And I struggle with that. And since meeting Mary Esther and these lozenges has made a whole big difference. And people think inflammation, they don't really understand that inflammation, guys, can happen anywhere in your body, right, Mary Esther? Anywhere. It doesn't have to be just a joint. And
oh, absolutely.
Ladies, when your rings get too tight, a lot of times that's inflammation, or your watch gets too tight, or your shoes get too tight. A lot of times that is inflammation. And all of us are individuals. All of us have very different gene expressions. And if you really, really want to know what your body is capable of methylating for your gene expression, then save up and go get a once in a lifetime a DNA test with especially MTHFR, and you will know from there on out. Mary Esther, I think personally, when I was asked to do this call, I thought, and I contacted you and I thought, what can we do that is different than we've been through brain several times in the last 4 years, right? Everybody's understood the ingredients and we can always learn. But I wanted to do something different. And because methylation has been so heavy on my heart and my mind with myself and my daughters, I said, Mary Esther, what do you think about doing this? And she got so excited, folks. And I think she did just such an incredible job tonight. I think this call is well past due, Mary Esther. I think this is the kind of stuff that so many of us need to know and want to know. And my gosh, is this recording of you tonight going to help so many people, especially when we have professionals in the medical industry looking at our products and what they can do for their clients. I think this call is over the top, Mary Esther. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, I just want to close it out. We have a lot of new people on here tonight. Can you just talk about your book, which, folks, every one of you know, if you've been around for a day or a half, how I am a proponent of Mary Esther's book. I call it my desk reference, my Bible when it comes to APLGO. I absolutely love it and use it all the time. I have people asking me if they can borrow it. I say no. So Mary Esther is going to tell you how you can go get your own. And then once this call is, the recording is done and the company goes through it, they will post it. And Mary Esther will have all of the schematics on her website, and they will also be uploaded to the hub for all of you that are in the hub. And Mary Esther, I just can't thank you enough. So please close us out tonight. Job well done, over the top, 1000%. Thank you.
It was great fun, my pleasure and my honor to do this. So I created the APLGO Product Reference Nutritional Health Guide several years ago. This is the second edition since we've had so many new formulations added to it. And it's exclusively for APLGO associates or any new recruits, especially if you have someone who wants to know the science behind it and doesn't trust it if there isn't any science behind it. Boy, do we have a lot of scientific references in this book for you. There are what are called monographs for every botanical. So it itemizes, according to the scientific peer-reviewed study research, all of the different health benefits that the botanicals offer in these formulations. They're ordered in the under each different formulation. So if you go to BRN, you'll see all the different botanicals in it and all the science right there for you. So this is a 631-page book, but people are loving it, and it was such a pleasure to compile it. Took me months to do it. So I'm excited about it, and I hope you will add it to your repertoire. You don't have to have a degree, multiple degrees in nutritional physiology, but this book will be your guide and your confidence as far as allowing you to succeed in your APLGO business and have the credibility. Even if you can't, you're not at the point where you can reiterate what's said in the book, you can just show them the book. And we've got this book to prove everything that we say on these calls about the APLGO drops. So you don't have just you don't have an ordinary kind of supplement here. You have something that's viable and truly is something that the body will use actively immediately. And that's why you get so many different successes, in this book. So if you go to my website, holisticchoices.com/APL, then these links are listed there. Okay, this page is only for APLGO people, so it's kind of obscure, so you can't really click on it here, but I always post the PDFs on this website page right here so that you will get the PDFs. You can download this entire document every month. I do that. And also, like Ruth said, the video will be on my website, at the APLGO website, and wherever else people want to share it.
Let me unmute. My dogs are barking. Mary Esther, again, for me, guys, this was probably the most powerful call in the recent history anyway, that I can think of, that Mary Esther has poured her heart out for us. And I, for one, just can't even thank her enough. And Mary Esther, again, from all of us to you, thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for continuing to educate us. I, for one, am looking forward to where you're going with your website and can't wait to be part of that and continue learning every single day from you. Folks, this will be up. Like I said, the company will have it up in the hub. It'll be on Mary Esther's website as well. Does anybody have a quick question before we get out of here?
Please.
Any questions at all?
Can I make a comment about shoes being too tight?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, real quick. So whenever you have extracellular fluid that's not going in and out of the cells to create a liquid or fluid balance in the body, you're going to have swelling. So what causes that, number one, is protein deficiency. So if you're not eating enough animal-derived proteins and the raw foods that help digest it and help break it down so your body can utilize these amino acids, then that's one major thing when people don't eat enough protein and don't balance the other food groups. So that water content food is very important because it has all the vitamins and minerals and phytonutrient compounds that help regulate the water flow going inside and outside of your cells. So everything, these tissues that are between the cells are called the interstitial tissues, and those are the ones that hold too much water when there's that kind of imbalance. So that's what I wanted to say, and make sure you don't take in too many fats, too many simple sugars. I wouldn't recommend any other than the 1 gram that's in the drop, and that's easily done, easily done by the body. So yeah, I just wanted to give that little tidbit in there to help people who might have these swelling problems.
Mary Esther, thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
everyone,
you.
for joining us tonight. If you get a chance, go to Mary Esther's site, order the book. If I can say anything, order the book. You will not be glad, or you will be glad you ordered it, because when you don't have it, you can't answer the questions that you need to look up in the book. It is a lifesaver. I use it every day. Mary Esther, I hope you have a blessed week and a wonderful week. We will see you next month. I don't know what the product of the month will be next month, but I'm sure we'll find out. And as of right now, tonight for the next week, BRN is now on sale, buy 2, get 2. So you want to go in and stock up on BRN. It is a great product. Good night, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good night, everyone.